Okay, backing up just a little bit, we're working on the rate of change question right now. People are having trouble, I think because they're confusing this bracketed interval, which is an interval of the x-axis, with an ordered pair. I mean, they kind of look the same, but as I've said, the assignment you had for today uses the interval notation. The videos you had access to for today use this notation, okay? So be sure you come in here prepared, because most of you are going to need what you get here to reinforce what you're getting in your Math 161 so that you're going to succeed in that course, okay? That's our goal, succeed in Math 161. Okay. Anyhow, first question I asked was on function notation. People did fairly well with this, but there was some incorrect arithmetic. But f of -2, the first thing you want to write is -2 cubed to reinforce that you're substituting -2 for x. If you didn't write this, then you didn't do what I demonstrated last time, and you didn't do, I think, what you saw on the videos in open math, okay? You need to do this step because it's very straightforward. Whatever's in parentheses here, you're going to cube it. Okay, so when you get down to f of a, and it's not a number, you just write down a cubed. That's all there is to it. Now you have to do something with that in many cases, but the first step is simply to substitute, and that's the first step in using function notation. And as I said, people did pretty well with it. Now after this, got some incorrect answers because there are a number of arithmetic errors. Okay? Anyhow, f of a plus b will be a plus b cubed. F of 2 to the x is 2 to the x cubed. Some people wrote something a little different here because you're confusing this x with this x. This x doesn't exist anymore because you're substituting 2 to the x for this x, which means that you're cubing that 2 to the x that you're substituting. Easy to get confused on that, I understand completely. Okay, then you do the arithmetic. I'm not going to address the arithmetic right now, except to say that -2 cubed, as many of you wrote out, is -2 times -2 times -2. But a lot of people wrote 8. Yeah, if you multiply 3 negatives, you're going to get a negative, right? Okay, so just be careful about that. Everybody knows that. But you want to be careful. Now, cubing 1/2, well, we did a thing on fractions. You should understand that's 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, right? And when you multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators. Unlike when you add, you need a common denominator in order to add or subtract fractions. When you're multiplying, you just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. Now, cubing a plus b, well, you got to use a distributive law. And that's a little complicated. We're not going to talk about that right now. Then you have a law of exponents that allows you to write this as 2 to the 3x. But we'll see that a little bit later. I'm not going to emphasize that right now because we want to get the more fundamental stuff. Okay. Now, I asked to find the average rate of change of f of x equals x cubed on 2 different intervals. Okay? And almost nobody made any progress. Okay? A few people wrote down a fraction, subtract a couple of numbers, subtract a couple of numbers, which is getting toward the right thing to do. So that's kind of like having the rhythm but not the music. You got to be able to play the music in time to pass quizzes and tests. Okay? And this is where you get it. And in this course, we're racing ahead of the topics in the Math 161, but we're doing them at a more fundamental level to make sure that you understand these really basic fundamental things, okay? Now, basic fundamental thing is rate of change, as I emphasized last time, and as you learned from your text, from the open math videos, and from everything else in the assignment that was due today, is the change in y divided by the change in x between two different x values. And we'd say then that it's the rate of change on an interval. Now the interval 1/2, 1 is the closed interval from here to here. Okay? So that's the first one I asked. We'll worry about the 0, 1/2, but once you see what you do in 1/2, 1, it's obvious what you do in 0, 1/2. Now another thing is, this is a function you're supposed to know how to graph instantly. Okay, it's one of your toolkit functions, one of the functions your whole course is based on, and you've really got to get better at that. The quiz I gave last time, results weren't spectacular, but most people were moving in the right direction on it. You got to really nail that. Okay, you really have to get that. So anyhow, you've got the interval 1/2, 1, and you want the average rate of change on that interval. If you have the graph of the function, let's just, we've got 8 here, we've got 4 here, 2 here, 1 here, and then that's subdivided down to 1/2 and 1/4. And your graph points will be 0, 0, 1/2, 1/8, and 1, 1. And then, of course, you've got 2, 8. So you've kind of got a curve if you do the extended basic function. There's your curve in the first quadrant. Now, you have similar numbers over in this quadrant, and as you should know, the graph goes this over there. Okay? And you should be able to do substitution and do all of the arithmetic. Okay, you really need to be able to do this arithmetic. Now, punch it into a calculator, take whatever the calculator gives you, but do the arithmetic and understand it, because everything is based on arithmetic. Okay, now the arithmetic involved here in doing the change in y divided by the change in x. Well, you have 2 points here. You have the point one half, 1/8, and the point 1, 1. Between these 2 points, which are the endpoints of this interval, now I'm going to ask you to tell me what the arithmetic is for the change in y divided by the change in x. In other words, what's the change in y? Write that down. Change in y is what minus what? Change in x is what minus what?